And lastly, advocating for human rights, democracy, political freedom, and concern for the poor. Right? If you're really, really interested in the benefits that Christianity have brought to civilization and history, you should check out this book, Dominion, by Tom Holland, the historian, not Spider-Man. Yeah, that's one of the go-to books for how Christians have really added value historically. So coming to an end, just quoting this very, very interesting study. David Ekman, in Jesus in Beijing, was doing a study, a research in China. And this one of the quotes. One of the things we were asked to look into was what accounted for the success, in fact, the preeminence of the West all over the world, he said. We studied everything we could from the historical, political, economic, and cultural perspective. At first, we thought it was because you had more powerful guns than we had. Then we thought it was because you had the best political system. Next, we focused on your economic system. But in the past 20 years, we have realized that the heart of your culture is your religion, Christianity. That is why the West has been so powerful. The Christian moral foundation of social and cultural life was what made possible the emergence of capitalism and then the successful transition to democratic politics. We don't have any doubt about this. Research in China from the people in China conclude after going through all the advantages that the West had, that the main ingredient was actually Christianity. It was a worldview that transformed a society. And you can see as many civilizations, as their worldview started to move away from Christianity, it becomes a lot more chaotic and problematic. I don't know if you observe the same trend. But I do. Okay? So Jesus as the climax. Jesus, the scriptures begin with the creational affirmation that all humans are made in God's image. In many ways, the improvements of the Old Testament over a good deal of other ancient Near Eastern legislation were a significant move toward that ideal. The Old Testament provides us with enduring perspectives about human dignity and fallenness, not to mention moral insights regarding justice, faithfulness, mercy, generosity, and the like. However, if we stop with the Old Testament, we won't see the entire storyline as it's brought to completion in Jesus. And so if we map out the whole macro narrative over here, we start on the left half with the Old Testament. Everything was created good and perfect at the start. That is important for us to note, right? We always jump into the less IU parts. We forget what was in the beginning. Everything was good. Then the fall happened. Things got complicated. But God revealed his laws, and in that, he revealed his character. And actually, if you understand the law, the context, it's actually a lot of grace. What you understand of ancient Near Eastern culture is they know that there is a divine, but they always struggle to know what this divine body wants. The God of the Bible came with clarity to say exactly what is right and wrong and reveal himself clearly. Now, this is transformational in that time. That is grace. So the law was reveals God's character. And not to forget, God kept pursuing his people, even though they kept on rebelling and ran away. Okay? And by the way, remember, God treats his people the same as the foreigners. Right? So as much as God imposed judgment on the non-Israelites, God also judged the Israelites with equal severity. So he is fair. So we keep falling short. But the story doesn't end there. God's character was fully shown through Jesus Christ, who came to be with us, who died on the cross for us, to fulfill his perfect justice, because he knows that by our own strength, we can never repay our sins. So he had to do it for us. And that's where grace through faith comes into the picture. And we know that at the end, all things will be perfect again. So this grand narrative is what we should use to hang the difficult passages that you might come across and see how we struggle through them. So King Keller says in The Reason for God, if your fundamental is a man dying on a cross for his enemies, if the very heart of your self-image and your religion is a man praying for his enemies as he died for them, sacrificing for them, loving them, if that sinks into your heart or hearts, it's going to produce the kind of life that the early Christians produced. The most inclusive possible life out of the most exclusive possible claim. And that is that this is the truth. But what is the truth? The truth is that God becoming weak, loving, and dying for the people who opposed him, dying, forgiving them. And I really hope that we can fully understand and appreciate the goodness, the love, and the perfect justice that our God possesses and how much he loves us. And I hope that will transform us and that will transform the people around you. So, is God a moral monster? I hope you agree with me that the answer is no. The 5 sessions sound very bleak with very difficult topics. It's a dark picture. But if you look at it in context, there is a sanctuary and a light right in the middle of it. So let's focus on the hope, not on the peripheral parts that look dark and sometimes unclear.